to Anexinet Win the Data Security Bracket with HPE, Anexinet, and RackTop. Appreciate you guys taking some time out of your, let's see, Wednesday afternoon to join us for what is hoping to be a very informative webinar for you. I am Vic Simon. I'm a solutions architect with Anexinet. On the webinar today, we have Michael Monahan, a engineer with HPE, David Hughes, the director for engineering from RackTop, and Jason Suss from a Proper Pour, who is going to run you guys through the proper way to make a March Madness margarita, almost said martini. So we're going to get that out of the way first, so all of you guys can have a nice, enjoyable drink while we discuss the advantages of RackTop on HPE.
All right, there I am. You can hear me okay, Victor?
All right, here you're fine. Perfect.
Excellent. Great, great. Thank you so much. And hi, everybody. Welcome, all my thirsty friends. I see the attendee count has ramped up there to where we're expecting. Still have a couple of people straggling in, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and get everything set up. First off, my name is Jason Suss. I'm with a company called A Proper Pour, coming to you from Frisco, Colorado today. And we are going to make a drink together because that's what friends do. And you should have your kit, and in the kit is all the ingredients you're going to need to make this drink. We have it the mid-winter thaw. We're kind of on the tail end of winter. I think officially it may be spring, but it's a really tasty drink, so we wanted to do this one because it's a delicious one. What you'll need in addition to the ingredients that came in your kit is some type of cocktail shaker would be great. This is the kind that we typically use at the cocktail bars, the two-piece, large and small. Small fits in, we give it a shake, pour the drink. If you have another type of cocktail shaker, it probably looks like this, where you have the little cap on the top, and then there's the big cap with the strainer built in. This is known as a cobbler or a three-piece shaker. It's not that one's better than the other. However, you typically don't see this one as much in the busy bars because if these disappear, which they often do, it makes it tricky. So whichever one you're using is fine. If you don't have a cocktail shaker, that's fine too. You can just grab like a water bottle or a mason jar, anything that you can give a good shake in. In addition, you'll need just like a shallow plate because we are gonna do a fancy salt rim on this because it's kind of a variation of a margarita. So a little shallow plate will be good. We're gonna squeeze some juice. So if you have a juice squeezer, that's great. If not, you could just give it the old Incredible Hulk and squeeze the juice in there as well. We will have to cut the lemon in order to get the juice out of it. So a knife and cutting board will be helpful as well. So I'll give you just a second to get all of your ingredients and tools ready. We know how important it is to have the right tools, right? And I think we'll hear a little bit more about that later from our friends at HPE and Anexinet and RackTop. Okay, let's get everything squared away here. First off, you're gonna need your tequila. A quick note about tequila, just because it's kind of fun to learn. There's kind of four main styles of tequila. There's Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, and Extra Añejo. And those four different types, it describes how long that tequila has been aged, typically in barrels. Always in barrels, different types of barrels. A lot of times used bourbon barrels or other used oak barrels primarily. This one that came in the kit is one that I like. It's interesting. Libélula is a joven tequila, which means that it's a blend of Blanco and Reposado. Reposado means it's been aged up to a year. Añejo means 1 to 3 years. Extra Añejo, more than 3 years. And you'll notice they get darker and darker. The Añejo tequila almost is almost as much of a whiskey note to it because of all the oak and that barrel flavor that it takes on. So we have our joven tequila. So there's a little bit of that age to it, which is nice. It gives it kind of a warmth, which is going to pair up nicely with the aromatic bitters and the apple juice that we're putting into this cocktail. So let's go ahead and start. And the first thing we're going to do is kind of the last thing. And I know that may sound odd, but the first thing we're going to do is the garnish. And usually that's the last thing you put on the drink, but you'll see why. If we were to make the drink and pour it in and then try to add the salt rim, that's really tricky to do because you can't tilt the glass over to wipe the edge with the salt because the drink's already in there. So we do the last thing first. So the best way to do that is to take your lemon, and I want you to, it doesn't matter which side, but I want you to cut like maybe the top just, I don't know, what is that? Maybe like 10, 15%, just enough so that it gets into the fruit itself. So I'm gonna cut, let's call that a quarter, right? About a quarter of the top of the lemon right off, okay? Also, it's really good to have a nice sharp knife. It makes everything easier talk about having the right tools for everything, right? So we have a piece of lemon here, which is great, enough that there's going to be some juice coming out of that. On the other side, the majority of the lemon, I want you to cut a wheel or a disc. So maybe just, I don't know, call it like 1/4 of an inch, or is that about 1 centimeter or so, or 1/2 centimeter. So we're going to cut that down and we'll get a nice wheel or disc or slice there. Okay, just hang on to that. We're going to use that later. What I want you to do now is take your little shallow plate, and in your cocktail kit, you should find an adorable little bag of spiced pineapple sugar salt. So this is dehydrated pineapple, a little bit of spice in there, probably some dried like pepper, jalapeno pepper is really nice. The flavor goes well with pineapple. And then sugar and salt. So we'll have a sweet and a kind of a savory, salty note, because we know how much salt goes well with margaritas, right? It kind of makes you salivate, makes it really refreshing. So we'll take our little baggie here and go ahead and open it. And then I want you to pour that baggie onto the plate. And what we're looking for here is elevation, not diameter, right? We want it to be a pile. So pour it all into the same area. So it's ideally like about the diameter of 1/4. I don't want it all over because there's a specific way I want to put the salt on this glass. So we're going to take our glass, let's hold it upside down. And then with that just top piece of the lemon that we had, give it just a little gentle squeeze between your fingers and kind of spin it around. You'll see that the juice starts to come up out of the top of the lemon. And then just kind of paint that lemon around half of the edge. See how I do that? And I do it upside down because anything that drips off, I want it to drip down and not down the side of the glass, because then it'll get really messy. So we have the edge has been wiped with the lemon, and now I'm going to tap and turn. So tap, turn, tap and turn, just like this. That's why I wanted a pile and not all over the place, because it makes it stick better. So tap and turn all the way. And then I usually just give it a little hit on the bottom to make sure that any of that loose salt comes off. Okay, so what we have now is a nice salted rim on our glass. You can see I did it kind of a little bit of a curve there, right? So it starts out closer to the top and then dips down. Just kind of looks nice that way. And here's why I do it on half the glass. Just a habit I got into. There's one thing I've learned in the hospitality industry. It's that you can't make everybody happy. So I'll make a margarita and I'll put it down and someone will say, oh, I don't like salt on the rim. Take it back. And the next person comes in, so I make a margarita with no salt on the rim. They say, oh, I really wish it had salt on the rim. To make it again. So I've started putting salt on half the rim. And that way, if they want it, they drink from that side. If they don't want it, they drink from the front, and everybody's happy. So it's kind of a win-win situation. All right, so set that aside. We have the nice salted rim on our glass. That's great. As it dries a little bit, it'll adhere that salt and sugar mix really nicely to the edge of the glass. Let's start building out our drink. The first thing I want to do is squeeze the lemon, because you never know exactly how much juice you're going to get out of a lemon. So by doing that first, it makes it a lot easier to measure it. So we're looking for 1/2 ounce of the lemon juice. That's 15 milliliters for all of my metric friends. I know we love metric, right? In the world of IT, we love collecting metrics, watching metrics. We can measure with metrics. So let's take our shaker and our jigger, and we've, in the tech world, we orchestrated our containers, right? Didn't even need Kubernetes. That's how easy this is. So we're going to take our lemon, and if you have a juicer like this, I know it looks like the lemon's going to fit nicely the way the curves line up. Don't do that, or you're going to get a face full of juice. Flat side down. Okay, so the flat side's where the juice comes out. That goes flat side down. Should fit nicely into the juicer. And then we're going to give it a squeeze. This is a pretty big lemon, so I don't think I'm going to need all of it. But we're going to squeeze that juice right into the shaker. I usually give it like 1/4 of a turn, give it another squeeze. This lemon spent its whole life, right, growing up for this moment. I don't want to short it from any of that great juice that it made. Okay, so we squeeze the juice into the shaker. I don't know how much juice it made, so that's why I do it first. This is one of those things that comes with experience, right? And this is why we're going to talk about professional services and expertise later on. I've done this a million times, so I know exactly the order I want to do it. If I had already added other things to the shaker and then I added the juice, I would have had to measure everything that's in the shaker, then pour it all out and measure that again to see how much juice was added and hope it's not too much. But by doing the lemon first, I can very easily pour it into my jigger and measure a half an ounce, which is that. There's extra. I don't need that. So we're going to add the half of an ounce of lemon juice to the shaker. Next, we are going to add our apple juice. So the apple juice you should have here, we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce. It's 45 milliliters, again, for our metric friends. So 3/4 of an ounce of the apple juice. And the apple juice is doing a couple of things here. It's adding a little bit of sweetness, and it's adding that apple, which I kind of think of more of like a warm sort of flavor to it. Your typical margarita would have orange, right, as its flavor, would use an orange liqueur. Instead of using the orange liqueur, we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to add the apple juice that adds some sweetness. It adds a little bit of acidity and that apple flavor. So 3/4 of an ounce of that apple. And then we're going to add a little bit of our spiced maple syrup. And we know apple and maple go so well together, right, as far as flavors go. So we're going to open up that bottle, take a smell of that. It smells really mapley, really delicious. I kind of want to pour that on pancakes tomorrow morning if I make those. And we're looking for just 1/4 of an ounce of this. We're already getting some sweetness from the apple juice. We don't want it to be too sweet. So 1/4 of an ounce, just really light. That's like 7 milliliters, just a little bit, right? To add some of that maple sweetness and a little bit of the spice that goes with that. So our spiced maple syrup has been added, 1/4 ounce of that. We did 3/4 of an ounce of the apple juice. We did a 1/2 ounce of the lemon juice. Now our bitters. And for those that maybe aren't familiar with bitters, bitters are to bartenders what seasoning is to chefs, right? There's all different types of bitters out there. They're very highly concentrated flavors. The aromatic bitters, if it says aromatic, is typically going to be your classic like baking spices. Think cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, allspice, right? Those kind of like, you taste it, you should get those flavors, right? That cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, allspice, and a bitterness, right? There is a component in here, usually it's gentian root or wormwood or something that adds bitter. Because if we think of flavor as like a 5-point star, right? And the 5 main flavors are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and the 5th one's kind of the unusual one, if there's any real foodies in the audience there. It's umami, and it's a Japanese like flavor / concept, right? Very common in Japanese culture where things have kind of multiple meanings. And it's like a earthy, savory, comforting sort of flavor feeling. Think of like bone broth or mushroom broth or things like that, like a lot of glutamate, that glutamic acid that makes things really savory and nice. So if a drink starts to get too sour, you can offset that with sweet. If it's too sweet, you can add a little bitter, right, and kind of pull it to center so it's not too far in any one of those points of the star. And that's what we refer to as balancing a drink, right? We would taste it. Oh, it's a little too sweet. Maybe we add some sour, we add some bitter, and get that to a nice balance. So it has the complexity, but it's not, too much in any one direction. So we're going to add, the recipe calls for 2 dashes. Sometimes bitters come in a dasher bottle. This bottle is a dropper style. So squeeze it all the way and then let go. 1 full dropper is considered a dash. We're going to do that again. 2 full droppers of the bitters is considered 2 dashes. So we have our bitters in there. Now I did it intentionally this way because not everybody drinks alcohol, and I always joke that alcohol is the only drug you have to justify not using, especially in a work environment, right? You go out to a happy hour and someone will say, hey, where's your beer? Where's your beer? Come on, where's your wine? You have to justify why you're not drinking. They don't really do that with other drugs. So I did all of this first because if you're not a drinker, that's fine. You can skip the alcohol and then shake the drink like we're going to do in just a minute, and then just top it with a little bit of club soda, and you'll have a nice complex drink with the apple and the lemon and the bitters and the maple and none of the alcohol. If you do want to add the alcohol, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to add, okay, now between us friends here, the recipe says 1.5 ounces. That's fine. That's because like legally a shot is 1.5 ounces. But I think we're all grown-ups here and it's Wednesday and we're getting over the hump. I think 2 ounces is a better choice for this. So I would say go ahead and do a full 2 ounces or 60 milliliters of your tequila, if you're adding the tequila. And now the drink is essentially built. And you'll notice I did that without the ice because I knew we were going to be walking through this step by step. And had I added the ice in the beginning, it would have sat there and melted. It's another thing that comes right from years of experience and expertise. So now the drink is built, and you'll see if you ever go into the fancy cocktail bars, they'll line up all their tins or their mixing glasses, and they'll build all the drinks and then ice, 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 shake, 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 pour, 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 so that the drinks don't get over diluted just sitting there. So the drink is built. We are going to grab our ice. So I'll give everybody a second to go ahead and grab some ice. Mine's in the freezer just over here. I'll be right back with that. And I'll mention that if there are any questions, I do have the chat open. So you're welcome to add any questions into the chat. I think people should have the ability to do that if you have any questions about anything we've done so far. Now for the ice, what I usually do, again, pro tip here, is I want the drink to fill the glass just about to the top, not all the way over. I don't want it to overflow, and I don't want it to be not enough. So what I do is I'm going to add the ice, and I put them side by side. I'm going to add the ice until it's about a cube's worth of height just above the top of the glass here. Because we know as we shake, the ice cubes are going to break up a little bit and compress down. And so by having it just a little above here, I think once this is all shaken and done and poured in the glass, it should fit properly. There's nothing worse than having it spill over when you pour. We're doing all this work, pouring it in, and then the drink only comes up to here, and it looks kind of sad. Okay, the ice is in the shaker. This is the part everybody loves. We're going to shake the drink. So put our top on, nice and firm there. Give it a hit. If you're using the 3-piece shaker, another pro tip here, put the big cap on first, nice and firm, then the little cap. I know it sounds silly, but it will seal better that way. And as you shake, make sure you keep your finger over that top cap as you shake so that it doesn't come apart. Also, I mentioned about adding club soda. If you're going to do a non-alcoholic version, don't add the club soda yet unless you want to ruin your shirt. Never shake with anything carbonated. The carbonated component always gets added in after the shaking. We shake for 3 reasons. 1, make the drink cold. 2, dilute it a little bit. We want to add just a little bit of dilution, not too much. And 3, alcohol and juice typically don't like to mix together, kind of like oil and water a little bit. So by shaking, it helps those come together. So we'll give it a good hit. Let's give it a shake, about 8 seconds here. Let's see it. And I do a pretty aggressive hard shake because I want that ice to be banging around in there, and I want it to break up and chip a little bit because I like a margarita like this to be a little slushy. You could always strain it over fresh ice. You could pop it in a blender if you wanted to make a frozen margarita. But I like to just do what we call either a rolling pour, where you use the ice that you shook the drink with and pour it into the glass, or some people will strain it over fresh ice, but I like it kind of beat up and slushy. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that into the glass. Perfect. And we have our drink poured in the glass. Now we want it to look pretty. So you have a couple options here. We made that lemon wheel earlier, and you could set it in the drink, right? Just kind of slide it in there. What I like to do is just cut like a little below the halfway point here, like a notch or a slit. And then I like to put it right on the edge of where the salt kind of either begins or ends, right? If you're a pessimist or an optimist. So I'll slide that lemon right on the side here on the edge. We know how important edges are. We're going to be talking about that later with security, how the edge has changed, hasn't it? It used to be you had a data center with 4 walls, and if it didn't come into the data center, you were safe. And now we know those edges have kind of disappeared. And it happened in the bartending world as well. If we think about the last 2 years, first of all, let's take a sip. And I'm going to tell you that story real quick. So cheers, or winter thaw. Take a sip. I think it's really delicious. It starts out, you have that tartness from the lemon. You know it's a tequila drink, mostly because I put 2 ounces in because I want to know that there's tequila in there. And then in the finish, you have that nice kind of rich maple. Maple and lemon go really well together. In fact, if you make lemonade, a touch of maple syrup instead of sugar is really, really tasty as well. But back to the story about the edge. So in the bartending world in the last 2 years, we know a lot of things had changed. We had COVID going on, bars were closed, and typically what used to happen is people would come to the front door, there'd be a bouncer at the front door, the bouncer would check the ID, and if you were old enough, they'd let you into the bar. And that's it. The bartender didn't have to worry about it. Well, that changed because as indoor dining and indoor drinking was stopped, people moved outside. And so you had maybe an outside event area. Well, what happens then? Well, there's no walls anymore. People can come in from any direction. And so you can't just check an ID at the perimeter because someone could sneak in from the back, they could climb over the fence or whatever. It was really easy. And so what then happened is that ID check happened at the bar, right? At the point of transaction, right? At the point of sale. And so we kind of experienced that same transition that's happened in the IT world, right? Where the perimeters have changed and the edge is different, right? We're thinking about data moving in multi-cloud hybrid environments or from data center to data center. That protection and where it happens has to change. And so you want that to be closer and closer to the transaction, to where the data, right, or the alcohol in this case is being stored. So the data security happens on the appliance, right, on the server, sometimes within the transaction itself. And that's, I think, maybe a segue into what our friends with HPE and RackTop and Anexinet are going to talk about today. So I want to say just a quick cheers to everybody. I'm just going to see if there's any drinks. Oh, sorry, any questions here? Yeah, I got a couple questions here. Tastes a little like bourbon. Yeah, exactly, because when you add that maple and a little bit of the sweetness and a little bit of that age from the reposado, that starts to get into the flavor profiles that happen with bourbon. Bourbon's aged in charred oak barrels. That gets a lot of flavors of vanilla or maple or caramel or things like that. So that starts to show up here as well. You could make this drink with bourbon if you wanted. I think it would work really well. I mean, maple, lemon, bourbon, bitters. It's basically like a whiskey sour with maple instead of sugar. I think that would be really tasty. And apple, we know apple goes really well with bourbon. In the winter, hot cider, a couple dashes of the aromatic bitters and bourbon is delicious. Let's see, so we got a couple comments here, very tasty. Yeah, maple syrup's a nice touch. Cheers, excellent. Yeah, so feel free in the chat if you do have any questions about the drink, you can add that. Otherwise, I'm gonna take another sip because it's delicious. And I'm going to, now that I've kind of led you into the world of security and how to lock that down, the kind of the way we did in the bartending world, I'm going to turn it over to our friends that are hosting today with HPE and Anexinet and RackTop to talk a little bit more. So cheers, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Jason, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hopefully everyone was able to get their drinks all lined up and ready for the presentation we got going. Great, Mike. Dave, if you could come back online for us. There we go. First off, special thanks to HPE Enterprise and RackTop for making today's webinar possible. If it wasn't for these guys, we wouldn't be able to do any of the stuff that we do and make it fun. So thank you guys very much. For those of you on the line, a little bit about Anexinet, and then we'll dive right into it. Anexinet, a lot of you know us, a lot of you we have personal relationships with, and we appreciate you guys coming on the line to hear a little bit about this. You know that we're about a 300-person company located in the Blue Bell area. That was as of about 3 months ago. Since then, we have acquired a couple companies, mainly Veristor down in Georgia, a company called Light Networks, and another company called Serene IT, which was about a year and a half ago. The reason I tell you that is Anexinet is growing, and we are doing that in order to better service you guys with the connected experience. IT is no longer just about servers and storage and networking. It's about that digital experience and how do we develop and make successful for you guys, our customers, those business outcomes that service your end users, your application developers, your customers, your business development folks. So we do that through a couple of different ways. We do that through enablement and automation, and bringing on folks from Serene IT really helped build out that portion of our business for us. The digital core was something that we've always been strong at. Business applications and data analytics, extending our reach with the networking guys from Light Networks and the UC development that they do, and building out that core infrastructure with the Veristore acquisition. What that means is basically a better experience for you guys, and us being able to provide a better end product for you. Again, the connected experience, it's built upon the data center. It's built upon the traditional IT that I just talked about. So it's application. It's no longer the analyst banging away on an AS400 screen or a mainframe screen. It's everyone having a cell phone, everyone having an iPad. It's that connected experience. How do you basically run your business with everyone having some form or some touch point to IT? So basically through networking, hyperconverged infrastructure, private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, business applications, data analytics, and then layering in security on top of all that. How do you do a secure, agile, automated, cost-effective, dependable infrastructure to better serve your customers? That's where Anexinet comes in. And we do that by partnering with some of the best in breeds, HPE and RackTop. I'll tell you point blank, the NAS environment has been sort of stale over the last, I don't know, decade or two. Not a lot of innovation. I got spun up on RackTop about 8 months ago, and I got excited. I know NAS isn't sexy. NAS isn't something that you get excited about a lot, but RackTop brings a whole new mindset and a whole new perspective to what security can be at the core data center. So to start this off, we're going to throw up a poll here real quick. The people on the line, what is your top data security concern? Is it ransomware? Is it, you guys getting crypto locked? Is it insider threats? The Ed Snowdens of the world? Is it compliance? I mean, are you in an industry that has strict compliance regulations? By the way, strict regulations, that's going to be all of us. We're all going to have strict regulations. Or is it something else? So if you could just take a quick second and answer the poll here. There we go. Okay. So we got ransomware, 70%, insider threats, 10%, compliance, to that 10%, and then other 10%. So great. So again, guys, Dave will talk about this, and Michael and I will talk about this going through the webinar, but having perimeter security is no longer a suitable posture for proper cybersecurity. So Dave, can you still see my screen?
I can see your screen now.
Okay, awesome. Take it away, sir.
Sure. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the IT industry since I was 19 years old. Probably a lot of you guys also have been in the IT industry for quite some time as well. But my last or my most recent position was the senior IT director at a global. How do I actually show that with what was commercially available at that time? I had met the RackTop founders about 5 years ago, and when I first saw what they actually had to show me, they've been in business for like 10 years by that time. When they showed what they were doing in the government space, a light bulb went off. It's like, this has to come to the commercial industry, especially for places like legal, financial, even healthcare, as well as insurance. We all have policies we have to adhere by, but since they've been doing data security, protecting data from nation state threats, they knew how to do it best, and they're doing it inside the actual storage system itself. So they designed and architected a system that can stop ransomware events, stop insider threats in real time, not a day later, not a 2 months, 200 days, not 9 months ago. Today, they can stop it right then and there. They also have all the capabilities of the table stakes things, all enterprise storage class capabilities, snapshot, replication, deduplication, compression, all the space efficiencies are there. But
it's not even in the data center anymore. We're processing stuff real time at the edge, right? So there's a need there as well.
There's also a need there as well. So when you have the data, you centrally repository, and you actually are able to spread that out and people access that from multiple locations and multiple points. What we do is we put a zero trust approach around that model and really protect the data where it lives within the actual storage platform in real time. So go to the next slide. When you guys think about it, where would you like to actually protect your data at? Like Mike said a little bit earlier, that's not just in the centralized location, it's also the edge. So data access, where would you guys like to be able to protect or be most interested in protecting that data at?
And I think you're right, Dave. I mean, as we've seen internally, data is the new lifeblood of companies, right? They're using data for analytics because that's competitiveness. If you're not disrupting your competitors, you're probably going to be disrupted, right? So data has become that new lifeblood of these companies.
That's the value. That's money right there. I mean, data is more valuable than cash. I mean, there's lots of black market that spread and push and put and sell data on those markets, and it could potentially be your data. So I love this is a great one. Everybody responded all of the above. Yeah, like Vic said earlier, security is layered. You need to have lots of layers to protect your perimeter edge inside, and now we can actually protect data at the core inside a data center where the data lives. It's a great question. All right. So when we really start looking at, and it really kind of started back in the SolarWinds incident, and really kind of the whole mindset has changed from the federal government. Is like, well, backups aren't enough, and protecting the perimeter just isn't enough. We need to look at the zero trust maturity model, the CISA maturity model, and actually re-architect this, because we have all these components, the identity, the devices, the network environment, the applications, but the bad guys, what people are really after is information and data. So we really need to create a new pillar. That new pillar is data. And we're talking about, the table stakes stuff in the traditional sense, the older elderly storage systems that are out there, they don't have the data access determination. Some of them don't even have encryption capabilities in the drives. Some of them don't have automation orchestration capabilities within the actual storage arrays. The biggest one, of course, is visibility and analytics. That's always done after the fact. It's always done outside. How do we actually create this one pillar and create that data-centric zero trust? Again, that's what the executive order was titled, data-centric. Well, it wasn't data edge or data, on the outside. It was data centric, right where your data is at. So really kind of bringing those optimal configurations and optimal storage where we're actually having the automation and orchestration capabilities inside the appliances, inside where the data lives.
Yeah, and Dave, the one thing that used to be the golden standard for cybersecurity was protect the switches, protect the access points, protect the endpoints. That's sort of like trying to protect your home from the end of your driveway.
Well,
is it valid? Yes, you need to do that. But however, if the burglar gets in, you want to be able to protect yourself inside your house.
Well, it's really gotten
It's
bad where we now have even getting reports where there's bounties. So there's employees being paid to bring in a percentage of the Bitcoin that can be captured if you bring in the virus to a corporate entity. That's an insider threat. How do you prevent it? You're letting that user badge in, authenticate, log in, get access, and we're not talking like the secretary. No, who's going to know that kind of stuff? Your administrators, the people that have those credentials, the people that know where the security cameras are. That's a true insider threat. They have elevated privileges, root access to everything. They are potential problems. So, you need to be able to protect those assets. Again, data. Think on the level of, Edward Snowden, a very famous insider threat incident that happened. We are architected and designed to stop that event, stop that person from even leaving his chair. We are assessing everything in real time, where the data lives and what is going on. Anything that happens inside out of any particular piece of data, anytime that somebody accesses a file, we're watching. We know who, what, when, where, why, what they did, where the data moved, what kind of access, even down to the bits, what had changed. That's the level of detail we're bringing to the storage industry. You can go grab the next slide. And I'm going to hand it over for Mike on this particular one, because we share, by putting these two components together, we're like peanut butter and jelly. The silicon root of trust with HPE and Mike, and the brick store secure platform software, peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, so as Dave's been talking the whole time, right? HPE and a lot of our customers have helped driven a lot of this technology around security over the years. As you've seen, when we started building the Gen 10 servers, one of the biggest issues was supply chain and how do we secure supply chain to make sure hackers have gotten smart, right? Not gotten smart, they are smart. They know hardware is not where they're going to attack anymore. As everyone's saying, the vector landscape is software and appliance and supply chain. So one of the things we did building the Gen 10 servers and obviously going into the future with Gen 10 Plus and going forward is we've built in this silicon root of trust, being able to identify if someone compromises your hardware, someone compromises your supply chain, being able to look at your firmware and BIOS and UEFI to make sure someone's not maliciously adding code in there, because we all know the zero threat mentality isn't a day 1 or day 0, it's a day 90, 200 plus. These bits are being added in there and they're not, a lot of times they don't execute right away. They look around, they see what they can get into, they can see what they can access. Most of these, I think the average threat I read was 99 days before you are identified. So as Dave said earlier, backups aren't the solution. You've already lost the battle if you have to go to a backup. You need to be able to prevent it from happening, not recover from it. So you have to be more proactive. And that's why, as Dave said, RackTop and obviously with HPE server, Silicon Root of Trust, complement each other greatly because we're able to help you identify. And the cool part of it is you can run it daily if you want. It's not just upon rebooting your server. We look at that UEFI, make sure nothing's being maliciously added. Think of it like a fingerprint. We're identifying if that fingerprint changes, we're going to identify that to you and give you options to fence it off or reboot it or do something where you're able to push that aside. So that's the real key here, is being able to prevent it, not react after it's already happened.
Well, and Dave, Dave and Mike, if the software is totally secure, yet it sits on a hardware stack that is not secure,
Yep.
You're sort of, why are you even doing that? You really have to have a hardware stack and a software stack that are hardened and have that security, that zero trust security mindset to have the complete solution. And that's
true.
really where the HPE and the RackTop synergy, I think, comes together. That was one thing that really, like I said, spun me up. But that and the AI, and I can go off on about 5 million tangents here. But having that supply chain and the most secure server in the world and the most secure hardware in the world, running the most secure NAS in the world, gives you the most secure storage solution, in my opinion.
Agreed. And we're only going to get stronger, right? As we continue to learn stuff, we continue to grow the platforms. I'll let Dave start off on this slide, and then I'll jump in as we're going.
Sure. And this kind of goes back to one of the earlier polls, like how do you want to consume? So being a software-defined storage, secure storage platform or cyber storage, we actually work with HPE in multiple different ways, because HPE carries a lot of different hardware to consume, of course, storage capabilities. So the biggest and the easiest one, of course, is the SaaS bare metal install directly on a DL360. Of course, that's our bread and butter. That's what most of the federal government purchases through us, because they want that silicon root of trust. They want that. They want to make sure they can actually get the SCD drive encryption. Everything from soup and nuts is handled through security personnel, cleared personnel, and layered on when the stuff hits the United States. So biggest one right there is of course, our bread and butter. The most popular one as recent, and you just think over the 13-14 years we've been in business, and really just, it's been a hockey stick the past 2 years in the commercial world. Most of you guys out there already have existing storage platforms. You've made an investment in a SAN platform. You've had it for a while. But the problem is the security components is also going to like a hockey stick. The hackers keep coming in. I've seen nation state threat security from the president of the United States and NSA right now on the news on CNN saying, get ready, we're getting ready to get pummeled by a lot of Russian bad actors. Please make yourselves ready. So how do you do that? Well, again, it's kind of hard to get platform storage right now, but I can take your existing storage capability, take your existing SAN, front end it what we call a SAN gateway system. I can use that existing investment and give you the secure capabilities of data-centric zero trust at the data layer. So that's one of our most popular ones right now that's in consumption, and it's very simplistic. It's a couple DL380s. You put them in your infrastructure, fiber channel or iSCSI, carve out some storage, and away we go. As soon as you put data on us, we're 100% protecting it with this zero trust model.
And
Another
Dave, real
favorite.
quick,
Go ahead, Vic.
quick. I want to interject something here, especially with the gateways. It just keeps something off my head. One thing to note with RackTop, a lot of the NAS gateways that are out there or NAS devices are Windows Server based. This is not Windows Servers based.
That's correct.
By
This
any
is
stretch of the means.
Yeah, the brick store is a purpose-built system that is definitely hardened specifically to a lot of the national security agencies specifications. And we follow 100% of NIST, the NIST framework. Everything's based off of NIST security, compliance, and governance. So really breaking it down to how we protect data, report on data, and leverage data access controls around it. So if we have a chance, I don't think we could do it today, but anybody would like a quick demo, we also have a YouTube channel that has, we record demos all the time. We always do them live, so we try to do demos with one take, so we can really show you 100%, what our capabilities are. And we're willing to stick our money where our mouth is, and I'll show you that in a later slide. A very popular option as of late also is the virtual appliances. Now, that one is really come light in, of course, the state and local agencies, city government, city agents, they've adopted hyperconverged. So our virtual machine in hyperconvergence, you already own. So just like the DHCI supply from HPE, we can live as a virtual machine in that ecosystem as well, leveraging that existing hardware, and then now take up that Windows virtual machine. Why would you want to use the most susceptible operating system on the planet to ransomware threats? I mean, that's probably the worst place to put my most valuable information. So we can replace a Windows virtual machine with a secure Brickstore platform directly in your DHCI or hyperconverged environments. And oh, by the way, this can also be installed bare metal or directly into a cloud instance. So we have interfacing to object storage as well as native installation on Amazon, AWS, and Azure.
One of the things to also note here is that the virtual appliance, the gateway, and the direct attach, they can all communicate and replicate to one another. So what that means from an architectural perspective is that you're not locked into a singular architectural standard. You can actually have a multitude of deployments with a very robust and not complex disaster recovery replication strategy.
Yeah, we tried to directly into a lot of those components, and I like to say all the way from the MSA to the Altera to the Primera, the 3-part, everything that HPE carries from the fiber channel and iSCSI SAN perspective throughout their entire stack, we're certified, tested, embedded. So if you have those capabilities or have a necessity for those capabilities, pick up the phone, call Rick or shoot him a quick email, or Vic, give him a quick email, and we'll show it to you live in real time. We even give you access to our software. You could grab the next slide, please. So I said table stakes earlier, and we've talked a couple different things, replication, deduplication. Those should be inherent. I mean, every storage platform out there today should have those enterprise features. Be able to serve SMB and NFS if you're NAS, iSCSI fiber channel if you're SAN, deduplication and compression for space efficiencies. Everybody should have these snapshots, data protection, data arrest encryption. That's what I call table stakes. Where we differentiate, if you look at the table stakes items, these client protocols and data storage services. On the left-hand side, the darker blue items, iSCSI, fiber channel, SMB, NFS. Again, everybody should have those if you're enterprise. But where we accelerate and where we differentiate from every other storage system out there on the planet is on our security and compliance services, the lighter blue shades right there. And this is where I typically like to show off, what our current capability is. But I'll reserve that. Hopefully we can set up a quick one-on-one or an intimate demo of our system and actually see it in real time and in action, what our capabilities are. If you want to grab the next slide. But what I do, I can offer, go grab the next slide actually. This is all the table stakes stuff. So what we can offer you is actually, if you look at the storage and the systems that are out there to be able to do what those those differentiations are you'd have to bolt on probably 15 other products to gain almost a tenth of the ability of what the Brickstore operating system, Brickstore secure platform could actually accomplish. What does that mean? Well, I was a director of IT at a multinational law firm. That means cost recovery. If I can find one product to replace 5, that's great. I have budget to work with. I'm actually, doing other things that actually mean I can actually, make headway on a lot of the work that I've been trying to do. Cost recovery is huge. So everything from audit, end user, user behavior analytics, protection, key management. We even built a key manager and make this simple and easy to consume. There's an enterprise key manager built into the system, so you don't have to go run out and buy one. Or we can interface with an existing. So there's cost recovery built into the platform. So it makes things easier to maintain, easier to manage. The care and feeding's not off the charts. One person can manage a system now. Put 10, 15 different applications. I got 10, 15 guys that actually have to manage it. So that my head count goes up, and management nightmares. And just imagine what maintenance windows look like. Oh my God. I want to go home on the weekend and go fishing over the weekend. I don't want to have to worry about the 30 different systems that are just giving me the security feature just for my storage. So lots of
And I
cost
think most
recovery there.
importantly too, though, Dave, is the licensing. I think that's probably what's most impressive here is most software applications out there today, you have to license to the size of the appliances, and we know we have to have multiple appliances. I think maybe if you want to talk about your licensing model a little bit, I think that's what's really attracted a lot of my customers recently.
And the entry point.
Yeah, so the entry point really is 1 terabyte. All you need to have is the necessity of, I need to protect 1 terabyte of capacity. Again, we can talk about your existing storage. You might have 100 terabytes or 3 petabytes in your data center, but only 1 terabyte or 10 terabytes or 20 terabytes really come under the necessity protected. Think of, I don't know, maybe not everybody out there knows, but there's a lot of things like CMMC requirements where now the federal government, you're doing business with federal government, they are now making you show that you're protecting the data that they're sharing with you. You might have a tenth of your business that works with federal government. Now you need to protect it in that sense. So we can actually just come in and protect that little bit, or maybe we grow and help you, because not everybody has a greenfield environment. Not everybody has $5-10 million in their budget to go throw right now at storage and convert everything over. Let's also face it, the time it takes to actually get there. So we can help you implement, get in, and get started for $500 a terabyte. That's list.
That's list price.
And I mean, because what we've seen is a lot, especially like our Isilon customers, right? Where they're buying. I had one customer who had to buy a petabyte to store 600-700 terabytes on there because they needed so much additional storage, but they're paying for that petabyte. Where in this scenario, you're buying by the terabyte. You buy a terabyte, you use it. You need another one, you buy another license. There's an add-on license. This is such a great solution. Other manufacturers out there or other solutions out there, you got to license the entire appliance. This you don't. I think that's where it's really gained a lot of traction with us.
So that when I talked in the beginning about really getting spun up on RackTop, there were a couple things that you guys hit on, which is what spun me up. That is cost of entry, the reduction in TCO, the ease of management, and then it was really the AI and the security piece that laid in on top of that. And unfortunately, we're not really going to be able to show the AI today, but I guarantee you, if you get a 30-minute demo with Dave, he actually executes a ransomware attack on his own system, how it identifies it, fences it off, and how he remediates it in what? I think it's about 3 minutes.
It's less than 3 minutes without affecting the entire. So again, we can actually stop an event and isolate the end user, the affected person, so that we don't affect the entire organization. We don't want to end up having to run to the data center, because I've actually on phone calls I'll ask you, hey, what would happen if you did get a ransomware and virus? You discovered there was one in your environment. What is your first reaction? Everybody on the phone call right now, think, what is your reaction right now if you discover right now at this very second there's an intrusion or somebody stealing data, or there's a ransomware virus now locking down and encrypting your data? What's the first thing everybody does?
EPO, baby.
Everybody's running to the data center. They're pulling wires out the wall. They're turning everything off to stop the spread, to try to contain it. Well, the problem is probably a lot of your data is 200 days ago the attack started, you just didn't know.
Right.
With our system, we can actually see that. We can see that bust coming. We want to prevent that from ever getting to that point, because the minute you turn everything off, you might as well just pull out the backup tapes and try to restore on those tapes or backup systems that you've never verified your recovery
But
strategy.
Dave, restore to when?
Because they might be corrupt already as well,
We
right?
all know.
You're backing
So
up corrupt data.
you're
You
just
gotta find
gonna.
out.
I mean, there's so much pain and suffering through these events, and I've been through a couple of them. That's why I gravitated to this solution, because I've been in storage all my life, and this is the biggest pain, because it's sitting up all weekend long with sweaty Steve eating Texaco burgers, recovering data, because that's the only thing that's open, you know, because Taco Bell just closed. Texaco is the only place to get a microwave hamburger at. It sucks. It is really bad time. Hopefully everybody's had enough margarita in them now that we're starting to have some fun. All right, so pull over to the next slide. One thing I will give everybody on the phone, we have what we call our Jumpstart program. And what we can do is give you free for 90 days our access to our entire suite of software. Again, it's one license. So it's one item. You can have everything. Dedupe, protection, active defense, everything that's built into our platform, you have access to. You can have it and install it for 90 days, as well as you get 24/7 support with that. So real production workloads, we will support you within that 90 days. If you don't like it, if it adds no value, turn it off. You're not going to hurt our feelings. But I guarantee you, 98% of you out there that do take my challenge and install it and actually try it out, there's no way you're going to want to pull it out after you see the value that it gives you in your data center. The comfort, the warm feeling that I can go home and sleep at night knowing that my data is protected. It's in a safe and nobody can gain access without me knowing when something's wrong. So that can be installed as a virtual machine. Again, we'll give it to you. We'll give you 2 of them if you would like to, if you want to see replication, disaster recovery. It's just software. It's not going to hurt us. So you will get a personal white glove install, training, as well as knowledge transfer in that entire program. By the way, if you decide to keep it, there's no installation fee. Bonus right there, right?
Exciting stuff.
And with that,
I think that's about it. So
anybody have any questions?
yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I don't see anything coming in through the chat.
Hopefully everybody's pretty inebriated by now.
Off of one margarita, I'd be surprised.
Well,
I mean,
we did give them a whole bottle, didn't we? We didn't.
True. Yeah, with that, I think that's about it. Hey, Dave, Mike, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone on the phone. Really appreciate you guys taking about an hour out of your Wednesday to spend with us. It means the world to us. And again, HPE and RackTop, if it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. So listen, if you guys want to hear more, if you want that demo, reach out to your Anexinet rep. We'd be more than happy to set that up. And if you wanted more information on that Jumpstart, again, reach out to me personally, reach out to your rep. They know how to get hold of me, and we'll be sure to help you get that rolling. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Bake. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Anexinet.